Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick demonstration of Sony's first update to their smart remote control app designed for Wi-Fi enabled NEX cameras. So as you may have noticed, I've got my NEX-5R paired up with my Galaxy Note 2, and that's what I'll be demoing this on in a moment. But first, here's what you need to know if you're looking to update the software. Your NEX-5R, 5T, or 6 must be running the latest available firmware, otherwise the update will not take place. Then, once you've made sure of that, you will actually update or install the brand new version of the Smart Remote Control app through Sony's App Store on the camera. That would be the most seamless, easy way to do it, or using your PC in conjunction with the Play Memory software included with your camera and a USB cable connected to the camera. Once you've got that done, you're good to go. You already obviously know how to pair up the camera, so basically, for those of you who don't know how this works, essentially Sony has a Play Memory app which launched alongside the NEX-5R back in October 2012, along with this application, which was very bare bones, essentially allowing you to use your smartphone or tablet running Android or iOS through a direct Wi-Fi connection. You are able to essentially connect to your camera, which acts as a hotspot, so no internet involved, just Wi-Fi connectivity, and then remotely use your smartphone or tablet as a viewfinder with shutter release control. So the ability to remotely see what your camera's seeing as well as control it, but very limited controls. And I even stated back in 2012 that even though this was revolutionary, very cool, not just a gimmick, certainly good for composing group shots, things like that, it needed to be developed. And thankfully, Sony has done that. Granted, it took almost a year, but we finally got it. So for those of you waiting for manual controls, you now have them. You may have noticed the intelligent auto icon up there on the left. This is something that I'm sure was built off of the QX backbone, the QX10 and QX100 that just launched. But be certain this is going to become standard fare on all of Sony's, at least NEX Wi-Fi enabled models down the road. And I think that will include, of course, the new full-frame hybrid that's about to be announced. So we've got all of the manual control that was always missing, so that's got to be exciting for those of you who were felt, like this was a stripped-down piece of software that really could have done more. So if I jump into something like aperture priority, you can see we're going to get access to all of the controls you'd expect to, such as ISO. I mean, all the things that traditionally you would have access to on the camera, but could not have, at least in the past. So this is critical for those of you who want manual control when using the Smart Remote Control application. In fact, you now pretty much have full control over the camera. The only thing this cannot do is control a power zoom yet. And hopefully that's something that Sony will update if they're listening to this video. But moving right along, another big thing, touch to focus. The NEX mirrorless lineup has great depth of field, and if you have the NEX6, then you do not have the touchscreen that the 5R and 5T both accommodate. This now kind of gives you another element of functionality. You now won't miss that feature as much. Of course, the 5R and 5T with the touchscreen let you do this on camera, but now you can do this using your smartphone or tablet. So very cool, another added benefit, something that is available on the QX. But of course, I really don't want people to think that this is just a product of the QX, because this is clearly far more developed because of the manual control that the QX does not have. The QX does not have as long a list of manual modes, nor does it have as thorough control of features and settings. So that pretty much sums up what can be done now on your smartphone or tablet, what has changed. In terms of the actual settings, you can see we've got white balance, the self-timer, image review, save options. The size of the review image is staying at 2 megapixels. So unlike the QX, you can't send the full-size image to your device. So that's something, again, that Sony can address later on. You also can control the actual quality of the live view. I have this at image quality priority. That will affect how the stream actually comes across, how smooth it is, lag-free. You can notice my hand right there right now, just to give you an idea. I did not notice anything in this update in terms of it being necessarily smoother in terms of handling performance, but the features are where it's really at. So if I go ahead and take a shot, you can hear the shutter released. And much like on the QX and what the remote control app did in the past, it's basically telling us we can share or go back. They've also updated the direct upload feature in the application store for Sony, so that for those of you who do want to share it, that's a good thing. But that pretty much covers the smartphone end of things for this demo. What I wanted to show you now was more about the NEX camera itself, because within this application, we now have some modes we didn't have before. And I'm going to zoom in for this so you get a nice tight shot of the screen. Basically, you can jump into the menu, which I'm going to do right now, and we now have a 5-page menu for the Smart Remote Control app. So if you thought it was just about what I showed you on the note, clearly that's not the case. We can now control the shooting mode from here, much like on the actual smartphone, as I was just showing you. This is something that you were not able to do in the past. It is something that is part of the new software that has been brought out with the QX lineup. In the past, you could only control the camera once in a host control mode from the device you're using, the smartphone or tablet. Now, the camera is not completely bricked, we'll say. Your image size, your aspect ratio, quality. Now, this is something I want to focus on because you may have noticed we now have RAW support. So for those of you who wouldn't use a smart remote control app simply because you couldn't shoot in RAW, now you can. The only reason it's not accessible right now, you see it's whited out, is because I do not have an SD card in the camera. That is where, of course, the RAW image will be saved. You'll still get a preview or reduced JPEG sent to your smartphone or tablet, but the RAW image will stay on the camera. Let me go ahead and back out of that. Drive mode, single shooting or self-timer. I know a lot of you are hoping for continuous, not there. Can that be something updated down the road? Definitely. Is Sony controlling functionality for price points? Possibly. I would hope that wouldn't always be their motive, but they are in this business to make a living, and profit motive, of course, is what drives every corporation. In terms of the balance of the features, all of these are relatively, or they are accessible, as I was just showing you, on the actual camera, on your actual smartphone or whatever device you're using to control it, tablet. But that RAW feature to me was a huge one. Also, you've got HDR on here. So just basically giving you all of the controls you would expect that even weren't accommodated on the smartphone or tablet interface, iOS or Android. You've got picture effects, creative style. I mean, everything is there. Control of the zoom. So this is really impressive. This is not a minor update, even though we're going from version 1 to 2. I assure you, this has just completely redesigned, transformed the remote feature for the NEX lineup. So I really like what I'm seeing here. This is a tremendous upgrade. Anyone who thinks that this is just about taking the software they designed for the QX and throwing it onto the NEX lineup is completely wrong. This, in my opinion, is Sony's vision for the future of pretty much all of their cameras, but for now it will, of course, reside with higher-end ones. The reason we see more fleshed out features here in the NEX than something like the QX, simple reasons. I mean, the QX is a $500 device that's not even a true camera in the sense that on its own it doesn't even have a viewfinder if it doesn't have a device to pair up with. Whereas not only are we looking at a real camera here, but of course this is an interchangeable lens camera system. Sony has a lot of glass now, a lot more than a couple of years ago when people were constantly complaining, and even more glass is on the way. So an update like this also speaks to the fact that we're probably going to see them continue to innovate on the software side of things, something that I think a lot of people had lost hope on. But with version 2 of this software, it seems like Sony is not only revolutionizing hardware with things like the QX100, which whether you love it or hate it is certainly impressive just in what it accomplishes. But now we see that they've got a much bigger picture planned for the entire lineup of the at least photographic end of their business. So really excited with the second version of the Smart Remote Control app, especially since it is a free app, very value oriented, and I think anyone who owns the NEX-5R, 5T, or 6 will absolutely love this. And I think for most of you, this went from maybe a novelty app, even though when it first launched, it was revolutionary, as I said. It went from a novelty, something that you probably were using very infrequently, to now a viable, usable solution for actually controlling your camera. So major update from Sony. Kudos to them, and congratulations to anyone that owns one of these cameras, because it just got even better. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.